Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Oh, you're already.
Yeah, we're going. Here we go. Guys, I'm going to talk to you about the will of God. I love the question that Bailey asked because I think it's a question you guys are dealing with. It's a question I've dealt with a lot in my life. A lot of things that we want to know specifically about God's plan. And there's good reasons for that. There's good and bad reasons for that. Sometimes the bad reasons are we want to know things because we want to have a pleasurable existence without really devoting ourselves to God, and that's the danger that we can enter into sometimes, seeking quote unquote the will of God. And there's some people that are seeking the will of God for their lives, but it has nothing really to do with the will of God. It has to do with my personal pleasure. And that's what we have to be careful of. So, you guys remember a couple weeks ago, you can hop in here, honey. You remember a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Job, and Job digging for wisdom, right? This is so pertinent to that conversation. Wisdom is one of those things that God will give liberally if we ask, but we have to be asking. Remember, Jesus said, if you ask, you will receive. If you seek, you'll find. If you knock, the door will be open. Everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds, and who knocks, the door will be open. So it's important for us to have that desire, that excitement to know God, to know His ways, and to want to be closer, because it's that desire. Not just to know for myself, but I want to know God. That's going to drive it deeper for me. So, how do you know? This is a great question. How do you know if you're running away from fear, out of fear or temptation, and when you're walking away from something for the betterment of yourself and according to God's will? In other words, this argument of what is the difference between discernment and deception? What's the difference between discernment and deception? So I want wisdom, but I don't know if it's wisdom. Like, are the voices that I'm hearing in my head, is this telling me is this God telling me something? Is it me telling me something? Is it Satan telling me something? I mean, these are really good distinctions to make, right? I mean, we gotta know, do I know what, who's actually in my head? And it's important to know that. So the most basic thing I can say is you need to learn how to recognize the Lord's voice in your life. And that just comes with some experience. And it comes with really spending time with Him, which happens when you, read the Scriptures. It's important to do that, because when you read the Scriptures, you read an account of things God has actually done. I mean, if you think about that, the Bible is the most precious, most beautiful thing that we have ever had in the history of humanity, as far as something tangible that everybody can have, right? You don't need to witness a miracle. You don't need to be baptized in the Jordan River. You don't need to have this crazy mystical experience to see and to get into the stories of the things that God has actually, because they're written down. Like somebody took the time, lots of guys, men, took the time to write these things down for us, and they've been preserved in countless scrolls for thousands of years, that we've recently discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Incredible discovery. And if you've never done any research on the Dead Sea Scrolls, I encourage you to do that. There's so many things that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls that confirm, and this is manuscripts that we've had for a long time before the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they are so close. I mean, it's ridiculously close. Now, they're not perfect. I mean, there's so many things that can happen, right, in translation, but there's so much, and there's entire books, like Isaiah was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that are completely, line up exactly with the things that we already have. So this wealth of wisdom that we have passed down from generations ago of people who knew God, if you're not reading that, why are you even asking about the will of God, right? What do you even care? Like, one day out of 7 you're concerned about the will of God, but the other 6 you're going to live the way you want to. I mean, let's just call it how it is, right? And I'm not saying that that's necessarily you. I'm not saying that that's me. Some of us really are seeking the will of God. We really want to know, and we really are reading the Bible. We really are praying. But I'm saying if you're not doing those things, what should you expect? If you are praying without believing, if you are showing up at someone's door but you're not actually knocking on the door, who's going to let you in? Right? I mean, there has to be a desire, an earnestness in you to get into the scriptures, to read, to know God, to want to spend time with Him before you're going to know something personal about your life that pertains to you. You need to be familiar with God, and that's my first point. That you need to know God's will in general before you know God's will specifically. So, what are some of the things that are some of the things that are God's will?
That none should perish.
Right. None should perish. God doesn't want anybody to perish. That's an important aspect of God's will. If you want somebody to perish, that's not God's will, right? There's something wrong inside of you. If you want somebody to perish, you hate them in your heart, you want them dead, that's a problem, because God doesn't want that. Now, it doesn't mean that He doesn't punish. It doesn't mean that He doesn't have judgment, right? But his very deep down, He's not willing that any should perish. Like, it's not His desire that somebody would perish. What else is God's will?
You put me on the spot like that.
Yeah. I just said them earlier. It's God's will that you be sanctified. It's God's will that you be holy, right? That's that you avoid sexual immorality. That's something of God's will. In fact, I'm going to read these. This is any of you can go Google this, okay? What is God's will? Look for scriptures, right? I'm going to read a couple of them to you. This is 1 Timothy 2, verse 3 and through 4. This is good and pleases God our Savior, who wants all people. How many people? All people. He wants all people to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth. Now, you may conflict with that a little bit. You're like, well, what about Pharaoh? Like, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, right? Yeah, He did. But it wasn't before Pharaoh had already hardened his heart against God, right? Now, here's the point I want to make. Any hardening that comes from God has already happened on the part of the heart of the person who's being hardened. That make any sense? I think it did. I think you follow that. That, in other words, when somebody is turning away from God and God his actions are not being reciprocated, right? He's loving, he's merciful to all. As Scripture says that he said mercy on all, right? He has His rain fall on the righteous and the wicked. So, and the sun shines on the same people. So he every day is grace, every day is mercy. Breath itself is mercy from God, right? Mm-hmm. For people who are hating the truth, in the last days, God said that He will give them over, right? He will give them over to a powerful delusion. Now, is it God who's deluding people? No. Is it God who is trying to deceive people because He somehow He just wants some people to perish and He wants some people to go to heaven? No. But what does He do? He gives them over, right? In Romans, it said that He gave them over to base passions, to their depraved mind, because they refused to love the truth. They refused to seek the truth, right? And so when we turn away from God and there's a rebellion in our heart, if we're not careful, and we consistently do that, then, and I'm not talking about salvation here, I'm talking about people who don't know God, but God still doesn't want anybody to perish. So He still has mercy and grace on people, right, to lead them. But if they continue in their persistent rebellion, then He gives them over, and that's what this is. That's what this is really. What we're getting at here is that not that God doesn't, because God doesn't want anyone to perish. He doesn't want anyone to go to hell. That wasn't the plan. But He is going to get the glory, right? Mm-hmm. He is going to demonstrate His great power. He is going to show justice and judgment, and His wrath will be manifested upon people who continually do wickedness. So that's part of God's will. And here's another one. Give thanks in all circumstances. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will. Are you thankful in all circumstances? Do you really want to know the will of God? No, it's right there. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So, in other words, if I'm not being thankful, I'm not trying to be thankful, I'm not wanting to be thankful in all circumstances, I have no business going to God and being angry with Him when He's not revealing His will to me. If I'm not thankful, right? It's my attitude. If I cannot be obedient to the things that are already revealed to me, how can I expect that God will go any farther with me? See, here's another point. We're looking to God so much of the time for information rather than a relationship. We're looking to God for information. I just want what I can get out of God, and then I can put Him back where He belongs on the side of my life, but not actually really in focus because I don't really love Him. I just want what He can give me. I mean, I don't want that to, I kind of want that to sting because it stings me. It needs to sting. It needs to hurt a little bit because deep down, that is a very real fleshly reaction to God. That we would use Him. That we would abuse His grace. That we would manipulate the system to get what we really want in our flesh, right? That's how insidious the flesh is. Now, we know we're battling with that, right? I don't really want that. I mean, I really do want to know the will of God. But then I have this war going on inside. And that's why it's so important to seek Him, right? Not just what He can give, but seek Him with no strings attached. Whether I live or whether I die, I am the Lord's, right? I belong to Christ. And it's no longer I who live. So if I'm really willing to lay down my life, right, to take up my cross and follow Him, what am I really looking for the will of God in the first place for? Is it for myself? Or is it really so that I can know what His will is, right? Which doesn't always have to do with my great life. It doesn't always have to do with things going my way, with my dreams coming true, right? This is not a Disney movie. And I think we've been conditioned to think that if I'm not happy, it's not God's will. And I just don't think that's correct. I think there's a lot of things in life that are God's will that you may not be initially happy about. Now, all things work together for what? Good, for them that love God and called according to His purpose. So all things work together, right? It's not a matter of right now, everything's going to be perfect. It's a matter of what is God fulfilling? He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. You can be confident of that, right? That's God's will. To carry out a good work in you and carry it out to completion.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
And also, we've talked about this too, that sometimes something hard in your life is making a way, making a path for God's will in someone else's life.
Yeah.
So it's like, trying to open up your perspective a little bit, trying to come outside of whatever situation you might find yourself in to go, even though this is hard for me right now, what is God doing around me, with relationships around me, and what is He making a way for? We undergo hardships. I mean, personally thinking about some things from my childhood and with my family that I had to go through that were really hard. In the moment, I'm going, why is God willing this? Like, why am I going through these things? And to see where He's brought the people in my family and myself and my relationships with my family and my friends, and I don't know, I just realized that the hard things, sorry, it's like super bright. the hard things are used for His glory too.
So that's such a good point, because there have been times in my life where God's really plainly told me, this is not just about my will for you. This is about my will for Him. And He has to grow, right? He has to figure this out. You're a part of that, and you're part of His life. So you're going through this with Him as a part of my will for Him. of my destiny for him.
So much bigger.
So it's not just me, right? I'm not the only person in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So God's working through other people, and you're a part of their life, right? You're a part of God's will for them. Mm-hmm. So you can't just be selfish thinking, well, what's God's will for my life, and think that's it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not. You fit into so many different parts of the puzzle in different people's lives. In fact, every person that you ever meet.
It's a big tree.
It's a huge tree. It's a massive tree. It's all interconnected in so many fabulous ways. And the fact that God is sovereign over all that stuff, man, I mean, that just should just give him so much respect in your eyes. Mm-hmm. So much reverence in your eyes for a God who is working all things for your good and his glory, and not just your good, but the good of the church, the good of saints past, present, and future, for the good of his kingdom. I mean, and then he's putting to silence the ignorance of foolish people, and he's punishing the wicked, all in the same stroke. I mean, it's just, it's genius. God is genius. He's wise beyond our imaginations, beyond what we can comprehend. He's wise and so smart. It just blows your mind. So, one more here. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promises, as some understand slowness. Okay, he's not slow in keeping his promise. Instead, he's patient, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. Isn't that awesome? So we think that God promised something, he's supposed to deliver on it, right? Well, yeah, he will deliver on his promises. That's something that he's going to do. But in the process of fulfilling his promises, he is also being patient with some people that need to know him, because he doesn't want anyone to perish. So part of understanding God's will is that it's multifaceted, and it's not all about you. And that's an important, really important distinction to make. Now, having said all that, I do want to say, in my life, here's another one. Before I talk personal, because I do want to get personal about this, I want to tell you about my life, because sometimes it makes more sense when we hear from real life examples. Wisdom is not easily obtained by someone who's not willing to search for it. I want to throw that out there. Wisdom is not easily obtained by someone who's not willing to search for it. We talked about Job. We talked about his digging for it, right? Nobody finds the treasure because by you can't dig a hole right at the layer above the treasure. You have to start at the surface, and you have to work your way down, right? You cannot start at the bottom, because you have had already to get through all of those layers of soil to get to the layer that's right above the treasure. So some of us say that because we can't get to that layer above the treasure, it's not worth it. God must not be, either God doesn't exist. Sometimes we get that drastic, right? I mean, how many times has that question crossed your mind when you're frustrated, when you don't know what's going on in your life? Does God exist? Well, who's planting that thought there, right? And it's because of our weakness in our flesh, because we can't get an immediate understanding of what's going on around us, that we go right to that point. Our heart rages against the Lord. You know, a man's way leads into death, but his heart rages against the Lord. A man's own way. And that's what happens. So many of us, we jump to that conclusion, and I've done that, where you know, when I was younger especially, I asked those questions. I mean, God does he even care? Is he even there? You know, and the answer is yes, he is there. Yes, he does care. There's a lot more going on. So I can remember back before I left New York, God was preparing me for that moment. Now, it was really dark, right before the dawn. I've told you guys, I spent a lot of my first couple years in basements. I didn't have a job. I didn't know what to do. I was so disillusioned. I was 22 years old, trying to figure life out, and I wasn't getting it. If God's will was out there, I didn't think. I mean, I had the sense that I was in the right place, right? I made the move, and propped myself up with verses like the passage from the rich young ruler. He left everything he had, or he didn't. Jesus wanted him to. So you need to sell all he had, give to the poor, come follow me, then you have treasure in heaven. I would prop myself up with that because I had done that. But there were days of doubt. In addition to the faith, right? The faith got me here, and I have to say, I am here, right? I mean, something pushed me here, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, but then I had days that I didn't feel that way. Right before I got the job at Celebration, Taylor could tell you this. The very night before I got the job at Celebration, the very night, it was a dark night, guys. I was crying. I was weeping. I was depressed because I thought, why am I even here? I'm not going to get this job. They're going to hire the other guy. They don't care about me. I was pitying myself, and I was having such a dark and gloomy attitude about it all. And the Lord has been challenging me to have faith, to trust in Him on those dark nights, right? And I had people around me that were helpful, my wife included, to come alongside me and say, don't give up. Trust in God. He's led you this far. He's not going to give up on you. He's brought you here. He's going to bring you further. And we have to trust that about God, that He does have a plan, right? He does have a plan for your life. He does have a will for your life. But you got to understand that it's not all about you. And I had to get that too, right? I mean, you have Celebration Church, which at the time of my hire had just been through a huge, huge division, right? A pastor of the church at that time had been involved in a extramarital affair. There was a lot of issues surrounding things. Robert had just gotten promoted, right? He was just figuring out his job. I mean, how many of God's wills had to be working out in the proper way, and the timing, right? And so of course, the spirits of evil are going to come and hound me the day before I get hired full time. Of course they're going to hound me and make me feel low and make me feel like God doesn't care and make me want to give into despair and walk away, right? Because they know there's something big coming, and God knows. And God allows, because it's His will that you be sanctified. And there was a purpose in me going through the dark period, so that I would learn obedience, that by seeing His faithfulness on the other side of that dark night, right? So I want to encourage you. It's a great question, Bailey. Great question. And all of those of you that have asked it, and Ashton shared the verse just after that about God knowing, testing and approving what is the will of God, which is so practical, because this is not just a flip a coin and well you it's not random chance, nor is it God writes my destiny in the clouds and all I have to do is look up and it's going to be written there for me. It's neither one of those things. It's a relationship with the living God. It's pursuing Him. It's living my life. It's growing in wisdom. It's wanting to know Him. And as I know Him, I know His will. And then that begins to make more sense as I see how God is shaping me. Let me give you another example. So I've been day trading a little bit. It's been really scary. I've been in the stock market just a little bit, and I've been learning, some of the patterns that are involved. Like right before a huge drop, there's this pattern that you can notice. There's several patterns that you can kind of get good at noticing, and when there's going to be a huge drop or when there's going to be a huge gain in the market, you can see patterns that develop. And you can get in on those low points, and then you can ride them up like a wave, and then you can sell when they get high, because you start to see a sign that things are not going to go well again, and they're going to go down again. And those signs are a huge help to a person. Now, if I don't have any of those signs, and I'm just like, you know what? I think I'll buy the stock. I think I'll buy this stock right here. And I just come in one day, and then random 3-4 days later, I decide, you know what? I'm going to sell that stock. Well, if I don't know what the heck I'm doing and I don't recognize the patterns and I don't see what things are happening, I could lose a lot of money, right? Or randomly gain a whole lot of money that I didn't really know where it came from or appreciate. And this happened to me at the very beginning of this whole thing before I knew any of this stuff. I didn't appreciate and had a huge gain, and if from that gain, a huge loss because I didn't respect where it came from. In the same way, our lives are going to have patterns in them, and we can get better over time at recognizing those patterns and seeing, well, this does tend to happen right before this happens, right? And not that we're gonna, not that we're gonna start seeing our life perfectly predictable, because that's not the way life is. But I'm gonna tell you something. There are patterns to life, and the earlier that you can figure those things out about yourself, especially the patterns in your own emotions, the patterns in your own behavior during certain types of events that happen in your life, the more that you can notice those patterns, the better you'll be able to pick up on things, the more that you'll grow in wisdom. And that's something that I pray that you guys will really seek. Seeing those patterns is part of what wisdom is part of what discernment is. There's always going to be the temptation, right? There's always going to be the fear that comes in. And am I running away from God's will like Jonah, who ran away from what he knew was exactly what he was supposed to do? He heard from God exactly what he needed to do and went the other direction. Like he knew the will of God and did the opposite. Now, if you know the will of God and you're doing the opposite, until you reverse course, you're not going to end up at the place God wants you, right? You're going to end up in Tarshish. No, you're not going to end up in Tarshish. You're going to end up inside of a whale, right? Being swallowed alive by a whale until you're barfed up on some forsaken shore.